Awesome, thank you, Amy. Thank you very much for having us. We really appreciate it. I'm gonna do a quick introduction of myself and my team, and then of course the organization that we work for, which of course is a vendor that works with ETS here in the Iowa market. Normally I like to kick these presentations off with like a little anecdotal story, because I travel all over the world to do this presentation. And Amy and I are very good friends. Herbs is a wonderful customer of ours, so I made the trip out to Iowa. I've never been to Iowa, so I don't have any Iowa stories. I'm hoping maybe if this goes well enough tonight, we'll go out to the bar and maybe develop some type of Iowa story. But yeah, closest thing to funny I got was your husband last night almost getting hit by the train in the middle of Cedar Rapids. That was pretty cool. Yeah.
That's originally from Toronto. So
don't judge me, I am Canadian. And I will talk fast. I do talk fast. My name, as Amy mentioned, is Rob Ray, Vice President of Business Development for Datto. And I'm sure you've never heard of our organization, or if you have, it's probably anecdotal. Hopefully by the end of today's presentation, you'll have a better understanding of who we are. I do want to introduce some members of my team. Constantine, where are you, Constantine?
Here.
He's way in the back. Constantine is our local rep, and working with Herbs. He's Herbs contact within Datto. This is Connor, who's going to join me in the presentation today. He's a sales engineer. Promise it won't get too technical, but if you want to have a technical conversation, Connor's definitely here to do that. And then of course I got two other gentlemen with me. This is Eric, and I've got Fuji. Where's Fuji?
he's outside.
He's outside eating. They're both with our marketing team. We're actually documenting this because we're going to do something today that's kind of special, kind of unique, something we haven't done before as an organization. I'll kind of walk you guys through that. So I brought my marketing team out, so we're going to document the entire thing. We'll share it with ETS. And of course, if you're interested in taking a look at that footage, I'm sure ETS will make that available for you guys. And you'll see a little bit more about what we're talking about. Myself personally, as I mentioned, I do travel around the world talking about disaster recovery, talking about backup, talking about business continuity. So I get the opportunity to meet tens of thousands of people that are using the technology, using it properly, not using it properly, and then develop the story from there. So I have done this quite a bit, and again, very happy to be here supporting ETS in their efforts. Datto, if you're not familiar with us, we're actually founded back in 2007. We are based out of Norwalk, Connecticut. That is the hotbed for IT. Forget about Silicon Valley. Connecticut's the next big front. We actually were founded back in 2007 by our owner and still owner and founder of our organization. Literally started the company in his basement back in 2007. Today we're over 500 employees worldwide. We have offices throughout the United States now. We have offices in Canada, Europe. We just launched an office in Australia, and we're taking over the world as far as backup and disaster recovery goes. 70% of our staff are in support and development, and I think that's really important to note because we are a technology innovation company. What we are going to show you today is something that you probably have never seen before, and that's what makes Datto different, and part of the reason why ETS is bringing Datto to this market. And hopefully we'll be able to share something and show you something that you haven't seen. As I mentioned, 9 offices around the world. We've been on the Inc. 500 list for the last 3 years running. We're a private company, but I won't tell you our revenues, but I'll tell you, we're not that one-man shop anymore. We're making significant amount of money, and then the reflection upon that is being on that Inc. 500 list, which demonstrates the growth that our organization has, which means our product is viable and it's working in these markets. Our cloud is a very formidable cloud, and as we continue to see the evolvement of cloud technology and where the cloud is going, we're actually storing over 150 petabytes here in the United States alone. By the way, we do only have cloud sites here in the US for US customers. Your data never leaves the shores of the continental United States. 65 industry awards in 2014. We have over 40,000 devices deployed worldwide. Now, I don't know if you guys can make this out. This is an actual globe, and it is spinning. Those light points, everywhere you see a light point is actually a Datto device that's been checking in. We track the IP address and we can actually put it on the globe. That's actually Europe right there, and that long line just represents how many devices are actually in London. And as it spins around in the United States here, you can see that our core business is in the North American space. So really cool, we track this stuff, we look at this stuff, we're a technology company and we geek out over this stuff a lot. We are considered a backup and disaster recovery company, but I'm going to ask you guys to rethink backup, because the way in which you traditionally have thought about backup is not the way in what we do and not the value out of what ETS brings to the table. When we think about backup, we think about natural disasters, okay? Fires and floods and tornadoes. And I was talking to a couple gentlemen before I started here, and when was the last time you guys had a natural disaster through Cedar Rapids? Minimal, right? Tornado came through, I think in 2008 or something like that. There was some flooding a couple of years ago. The problem is that if you're looking at backup and you're looking at continuity and you're looking at paying a subscription fee for this service and you're thinking about tornadoes and those what if scenarios, that's the wrong way of thinking of it. Okay, rather than thinking I got to pay $100, $200, $1,000, $10,000 a month for backup, it's the wrong way to think about it. Just in case there's a tornado or hurricane. Every single company will experience a disaster, not once, not twice, but 20, 30 times every single year. Doesn't matter your size, doesn't matter your geographical location, because there's one disaster that all of you have in common. Anybody know what that is?
Users.
People. People suck, okay? People do terrible things to technology. We actually had this conversation, yeah, he's putting his hand up. We had this conversation right before because we're trying to figure all this presentation out, make sure everything's going right. I got some of the smartest people in technology in the world here trying to plan this session for you guys, and we can't figure it out. Users ruin everything, right? And we all do that. And I got a couple of examples. First, you guys remember back not that long ago, the US government accused the Chinese government of hacking into large trillion-dollar companies to try to steal industry secrets. You guys remember this? What happened was the Wall Street Journal actually reached out to a Chinese hacking firm and said, if you are doing this, how are you doing it? And they said it's actually quite simple. All we do is find your domain, we find your email convention, and we send an email to every single one of the employees that work for your company. Because there's always one guy that's going to click on anything that he receives via email. It's usually the CEO, right? Give you a perfect example. I actually do this presentation a lot, okay? And I like to share my presentations with my partners, with the end users, whoever it is that wants to see my presentation, I'll share my deck. It's a pretty large deck because I got that spinning globe video that's in it, so I send it via Dropbox, okay? What I do is I will send it, and I get this email a lot, okay? So I'll send it via Dropbox. People are sending me stuff via Dropbox. I get this email, right? And it says, a friend of yours wants to share something on Dropbox. Click accept to view it. Now, I'm in this business, and I should know better than this, but I almost clicked on this. Until I realized it says your friend right there in the email. And Dropbox, if you use it, never says your friend. It says Amy Luby is sending me an email. It never says, or a Dropbox invite. It never says your friend. So I hover over that accept button, and it takes you to a website called soccerpricechecks.com. Obviously not Dropbox, okay? What we did was we set up a virtual environment, and then we clicked on that link. You guys know what was in there? Not soccer prices. This one. You guys seen this guy before? This is called CryptoLocker. CryptoLocker is the greatest single thing to happen to IT in decades, and I'll tell you why. What happens is ransomware is rampant. Forget about the viruses. Forget about the little things that people are trying to do the environments to just disrupt, just try to slow you down. This is how they're actually making money. Has anybody had ransomware or CryptoLocker yet? None of you? It's common. Yeah, you have? Okay, good. It's common, and it's evolving faster and faster and faster. The FBI actually reported last month that apparently more than $18 million was paid out in Bitcoins because of CryptoLocker. Now that's only for companies that called the FBI and said, I have CryptoLocker. How many companies didn't do that? Did you call the FBI when you got CryptoLocker? No. So it's a lot more than $18 million, and it's going to be faster and faster and faster. So when we're talking about disasters, we're going to stop thinking about fires and floods and tornadoes, and instead we're going to start thinking about things like this, because the people are the worst disasters that happen within these environments. And there's nothing you can do to protect yourself. There's a lot of technology out there to prevent it from coming in, but it's not bulletproof. That's why a backup plan is always necessary to prevent it from happening here. So we're rethinking backup, stop thinking about disasters. Instead, we're going to talk about continuity. Datto is not a backup company. We're a continuity company. What we do is when you hit that disaster point, fire, flood, tornado, CryptoLocker, whatever it may be, we get you back up and going within 6 seconds. That's how quickly we can do it. Let's talk about what continuity actually means. So we're talking about data continuity. I'm going to start by talking about what isn't continuity, because there's a lot of different forms of backup that are out there today, and I'm sure you're being bombarded with it and you're seeing different versions of it. When we were driving here today to get set up, there was an ad on the radio for Carbonite. You guys, I'm sure, have all heard of Carbonite, okay? Carbonite's cloud-based backup. You can store simple files and photos and stuff like that. The problem is when you start putting your network in the cloud, when you start putting your network in there, it's not a continuity solution, because it's about eliminating your downtime, not about restoring your data. That's easy. It's about eliminating the downtime. So cloud-only backup solutions like that are not continuity. That's not going to help you eliminate downtime. Local only, and this includes tape backup, is not continuity, and I see this all the time. Tape backup technology was invented in 1935. If you're still using tape backup, you're using some archaic equipment and the way in which business was actually done. And we've seen a number of examples why tape doesn't work, and specifically in disaster recovery scenarios. And then file-based backup, which I'll talk a little bit more about. Datto is an image-based solution, meaning we get everything that's within the network, the apps, the OS, the files, the folders, the baby photos, whatever it is you're storing in your network, we get all of it. Now, why is that important? If you're using a file solution, meaning you're only picking and choosing the files that you want to back up, that's not continuity, because you're picking and choosing those files. Now, there's always the scenario where the one file that you're not backing up, which is the one where the CEO is storing pictures of his children, is now gone. You didn't back it up because you didn't want to pay to store that stuff, but now he wants it back. Talk to ETS. I'm sure they've got that phone call numerous times saying, I want it back, but I haven't been backing it up. So this is where backup kind of falls apart. When you're talking about an image-based solution like us, we copy the entire environment. And with the cost of cloud storage, it's come down significantly these days. You can actually get and store all of your stuff for relatively affordable prices. But the key to this is the restoration. Remember, the idea is about eliminating the downtime. We want to get you up and moving and continuing to work in your businesses as quickly as possible. When you have a file-based solution, the first thing you need to do is install the OS. Then you install the apps, and only then can you start bringing the files back down. This is not saving you time at all. When you're talking about an image-based solution like ours, it all comes back. Whether you're doing a simple one file out of one email restore, or whether you're doing an entire bare metal restore right back to grassroots, you have the ability to do it quickly. So what is continuity? Continuity is making sure that you also have multiple copies of your backup. What Datto does is we store it on our local device, and this is an example of one of our local devices, which we've been shooting out here all day long. That's our local device. We also keep it in 2 cloud sites within the United States. So you have multiple copies. So regardless of the disaster, you have the ability to get your data and get it back fast. It's also making sure you have all of your data, and that's through the entire image being captured, okay? That's what continuity is. It's going to give you great RTO and RPO, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that as well. What RTO and RPO is the cost of downtime. And we've developed a way where you can actually simply calculate how much downtime will cost your organization. It eliminates downtime through something called virtualization. Now this is where it's going to get fun. Virtualization. You have a user, and your user is working away, working away, working away. It's an employee, it's you, whatever. Maybe it's your server, maybe it's a desktop, doesn't matter. And for whatever reason, that person can't work anymore. Disaster, fire, flood, theft, crypto locker, whatever the case may be. What happens is you virtualize our device. And what happens is that device steps in place for this one, so it allows the user to continue to work. If the user is allowed to continue to work, ETS comes in and fixes whatever this problem is, but this user continues to work regardless. Even if this device and the Datto device are gone, you still have the ability to virtualize in the cloud. So you're continuing to work, you have all of your data, you're not experiencing any downtime. Hurricane Sandy, if you guys remember, depending on what part of the country you're from the Northeast, in New York, Connecticut, and New Jersey. We got hit with a hurricane about 2 years ago, okay? Never happens in New York. As a matter of fact, if I went out and talked to somebody about the what if you get a hurricane, everybody in New York would laugh you out of their office. But what happened was Hurricane Sandy, or the Floridians call it Superstorm Sandy because it wasn't big enough to be a hurricane, comes through Florida, but it actually skipped right over Florida and hit us in the upstate part of the United States, okay? It put more than 3,000 servers underwater within 12 hours. We had them all virtualized, including the Datto devices, in our cloud and allowed people to continue to work. We had people virtualized in our cloud for more than 3 months while they continued to fix what the core problem is. How many of your businesses can be down for 3 months and still be in business? None. How many of you can be down for 3 days and still be in business? Probably none. It gets harder and harder depending on the actual disaster. That's an extreme example, but that's an example of what continuity actually is. FEMA actually says that if you're down for more than 3 hours, there is a 60% chance that you may be out of business within the next 12 months. That's how dramatic downtime can actually impact your business, depending on what your core competency actually is. So what do? We reduce, if not eliminate, downtime. We're going to talk about the cost of that downtime and how we're going to save you money. And then we do local virtualization as well as cloud virtualization, so you can stay up and going regardless of what your disaster actually is. Now, Datto does this really cool thing. Now understand, Datto's a millennial company. Our owner is actually 28 years old. He's one of the smartest guys I've ever met. He was on the Forbes 30 under 30 list. He was #1 in technology. And the reason why we're saying rethink backup is because you've got the next generation of people that are designing technology coming up and coming up with ideas like virtualization. So how do we demonstrate virtualization for you guys? We do what's called a disaster demo. What we like to do is take devices and we'll actually demonstrate it for our audiences, where we'll actually destroy a device, virtualize it, and show you how it actually works. We like to use fire a lot. We have a number of examples. This is actually one of our reps in London, England doing a presentation. This is one of our reps out in Scotland doing a presentation. We like to light stuff on fire just to demonstrate for you. So we run the PowerPoint off of the certain device and then we light it on fire. This one, actually, what we did was we picked this. Sometimes we'll do this. We'll pick the biggest guy in the audience. We'll have him grab the device and have him throw it around until it actually blue screens. Sometimes we'll have a sledgehammer. In this particular case, we lit it on fire as well, just because we like lighting stuff on fire. This is really cool. We actually filmed this last week. This is like kind of cool, right? We can destroy your product. This is a pot with thermite in it. If you guys have ever seen thermite, okay? It's a chemical reaction that causes, I think it's about 6,000 degrees Fahrenheit lava, in essence. What it does, you light it, and we actually lit it, and it starts dripping through. You can see it's melting the actual pot that we lit it in. It's falling onto the Datto device, burned a hole literally right through the top of the chassis, right? And then we virtualize it, 6 seconds, and show you that we can keep it up. Now, you're not gonna have a thermite disaster in your office, hopefully, because you got bigger issues than data recovery if you have thermite in your office. But this is just an extreme example of what we do to try to demonstrate what we actually do. This is me in Australia. I was in Australia because we launched our Australian office, and I'm doing a presentation, about 35 people in that room, and we decided we were going to light a fire. Well, we did that. Nice big flame, right? In the middle of the presentation, my SE walks over and just literally lights our device on fire. Got a nice big 6-foot flame. The Australians are sitting there going, wow, that's awesome. Until the smoke detectors went off. I've got this sixth sense now. When I walk in a room, I start looking to see where the smoke detectors are. We literally could light a fire in here. I don't see any smoke detectors, so we could burn this place down. We'd be okay. In Australia, they're pretty sensitive to it. So imagine, I'm actually in a Marriott hotel. There's about 600 hotel rooms, and now the smoke detector's going off. Not just in the conference center, but everybody's hotel room, all right, is going off. If you were in Brisbane about 3 months ago, my apologies. But the alarm is going off in everybody's hotel room. The announcement comes on, stay in your room, everything is fine, we're investigating the issue. I literally had the fire department roll a truck, okay? Because an alarm goes off in a hotel, fire department has to come out. So I had 4 firefighters that came in there and had to sit through the rest of my presentation, making sure we weren't gonna light any more fires, all right? And a nice $7,000 bill that went along with the truck roll to actually have this. So we got a little gunshot. Now, when I walk in a room, I'm looking for smoke detectors, but we actually did our presentation in New Orleans not that long ago, and we went the exact opposite route. Instead of lighting stuff on fire, we decided to freeze it. We got a vat of liquid nitrogen, which, believe it or not, is not that hard to get. It's really easy. Go to any ice cream shop. So we got this vat of liquid nitrogen, and we start our presentation. We actually take the device that we're running our presentation on, and we put it into the liquid nitrogen. Literally freezes it in a matter of seconds. And then we take our device and do it again, and then we actually virtualize in the cloud to show you how quickly we can recover your site. We're gonna do it today. Not liquid nitrogen, not fire. Instead, we've got Chris Anderson out there with a shotgun. You guys see him over there by number 3. What Connor's gonna do right now, we got an RDP session set up with that little ASUS device that's set up out there. What Chris is gonna do, he's actually gonna put a bullet through that. Hopefully he doesn't miss. Otherwise, we told him he has to go up with the butt of the gun and keep hitting it until it actually loses the RDP session. So Chris is waiting for our signal.
Yep.
Connor, are we ready to go?
So as you can see, I do have the RDP up.
So what should happen here is once he shoots this, which again demonstrates a disaster that you may have in your environment, hopefully it's not a gunshot, but a disaster that you have in your environment, we should lose the connection here if he does it properly. So I'll give him the signal. Fuji, let's go.
Still held in the RAM cache there. Kidding. Said we wouldn't get too technical. So basically it's done, it's locked up. Yeah, gone. All right.
So what we're going to do now is demonstrate for you how quickly we can turn virtualization on and then continue that presentation. So Connor?
So that ASUS box outside, running Windows 2012, which currently I'm sure all of you are running in your local offices if you have multiple servers as well. With the Restore tab, continuity, as Rob spoke about, bringing up this virtualization locally. I choose the latest backup from that server before it went down, before Chris decided to go and tee off on that with his shotgun outside. Choose the resources, so local RAM, local CPU, what you can leverage from the Datto appliance itself or within the data center and in the cloud. Where I start this VM, we have local failover, as Rob mentioned, in as little as 6 seconds. So it all depends on the operating system, depends on your real bootability, but the integrity here is that we can bring this up within 6 seconds, get you mounted, as you can see, VM mounted, and also changing to VM running, if you can get a look at that. I know it's hard to see, but I get an RDP link here. Now when I grab this RDP link, it actually allows me to hit another RDP session to that virtualization that's currently happening on my local Datto device. So this is an image of that ASUS box that we backed up to the local appliance. Chris decided to go shoot it, it's now out. Maybe that was a user error, spill coffee, or even a power supply failure, whatever the case may be, you're now down, right? You're down unless you do have a Datto device. You spin up locally, or if you spin up in a full site disaster off-site within our data centers, you get up and running, and we're still actually recording backups on this virtualization. So as you saw, I choose my resources, I get booted up to a control-alt-delete screen, and I can get in and have full functionality with applications. Maybe an example is your DC goes down. You get Active Directory running, DNS, or even things like your Exchange database. Now maybe your core functionality is through email on your local site. You need email to have your businesses functioning. What we do is have database functionality in SQL, SharePoint, Exchange, and etc., even in SaaS applications. So really shows you that we can virtualize this, get up and running in as little as 6 seconds, and host you and avoid that downtime for continuity. So I'll pass back to Rob to finish the registration or the presentation here. And really the instance for virtualization and the need for that is local as well as offsite. You guys ran into a flood, as I heard about in my Uber ride over here. I heard about it on the plane on the ride over here. I saw it in an email and a document and presentation that we're looking at before we came out. And everyone's talking about this flood, and I even saw the bridges that were submerged. In my eyes, I'm thinking, those first floor level businesses, can you really avoid to be down? Your closet's gone, you need to be up and running on this local device.
Thank you, Connor. So, that is not a backup solution, we're a continuity solution. We're an image-based solution, hybrid cloud. So our goal is to keep your businesses up and going. What ETS's goal is to keep your businesses up and going, even in disastrous scenarios where you can have your entire network completely destroyed. You have the ability to keep your businesses going. Now let's talk about RTO and RPO. Okay, this is how much money you're actually losing when we're talking about downtime. It's a way to actually calculate how much money you're actually losing, because at the end of the day, it's not even about downtime, it's not about your users, send them out for lunch, who cares? It's about how much money your organization does lose. First of all, what is RTO and RPO? And it's actually quite simple. You have a disaster that strikes, whatever the disaster is, whether it's human related or natural related. You have the RTO, which is the amount of time that you're down, and the RPO is the amount of data that you lost. What happens is your system takes a backup. How often is it taking that backup? Because if you lose that site, what happens is everything that you've been working on since your last backup is now gone. And that equates into dollars, okay? So what is RTO and RPO? We have the very simple calculator I'll give you guys so you can calculate your own downtime if you wish. But let me walk you through the calculator in a quick example. First of all, you plug in your RTO and RPO, and then there's 8 simple questions. How much data is critical on your system? How often are you running your backups? How long does it take to start your recovery process? And then are you going to do a local restore or a cloud restore? If you've ever tried to pull data down from the cloud, it can take forever. It's not really conducive to a continuity solution. How many employees are being affected? What's the average wage of those employees? What's the overhead cost of those employees? And how much revenue are you going to lose? If you have a POS system, if you've got online sales, if you have a sales force that relies on email or a CRM or something along those lines, how much revenue are you going to lose? And then you can calculate, and it's going to come up with both the scenario that you've got as well as your total cost per hour. I want to walk you through a real example, and this is a seafood processing plant out of Seattle, Washington. It's a customer of ours, okay? They have 3 seasonal offices and only 16 employees that are affected by actual downtime. So we use this calculator with them, ask them to calculate their own downtime. Their recovery time objective was 30 minutes, recovery point objective was 12 hours. How much data is critical on their system? Very small data set, only 175 gigs. So not a huge shop, not a huge amount of data. They're only running backups every 30 minutes, which is great, usually. And it's going to take 15 minutes to start the recovery process. So you're talking about a very small data set, you're talking about a very small amount of time, only 45 minutes of downtime, and we're going to do a local restore. How many employees are being affected? I mentioned 16. The average wage of those employees is $30 per hour. The average overhead cost of those employees is $15 per hour. If you don't know what this is off the top of your head, use 50% of the wage. It's typically a good kind of cost of having employees. And then how much revenue is going to be lost? They're looking at it as 45 minutes. I'll send them out to lunch. We'll figure it out. ETS will come in and get us back up before they come back for lunch. So they said 0. They're not going to lose any money. Okay? I have a couple of examples. As Amy mentioned right off the top, if you guys haven't picked up, I'm actually not from Connecticut. I don't have a Connecticut accent. I actually have a Canadian accent. I'm actually from the city of Toronto. Anybody from Canada spent some time in Canada at all? Okay. If you ever try to buy booze in Canada, it's extremely difficult. Booze is actually regulated and sold by the government. I don't know if you know this or not. It's completely anti-American. You have to go to a government facility to actually purchase your alcohol. It can only be done during certain hours. You have to wrestle polar bears and everything like that. I moved to Connecticut about 1.5 years ago, okay? When I moved to Connecticut, I dragged my family down with me. My wife knows nobody. In Connecticut, if you've ever been there, it's absolutely beautiful. We got a nice big home out in the woods, okay? She literally has no friends, no one to talk to, nothing to do, and she's like, why the hell did you drag me down to Connecticut? What happened was, as a surprise, I was traveling again, and I actually flew her friends down into town. And her friends from Toronto are like, well, we want to buy some booze before we get there. So I pointed them to this website. It's called TotalWine.com. It is the most brilliant thing man has ever invented. You can literally shop online, buy your booze, pre-order, pay for it. They'll even deliver it to your house. I don't think they have that here quite yet. But Total Wine services Connecticut and about 3 other states. Well, what happens is her friends go to Total Wine to make their wine order so that they can all sit in the bush and complain about how their awful husband dragged her down to the United States. And all of her friends go to Total Wine to order a bunch of booze, okay? What happens is they get this, and if you can't read it, it says connection timed out. Not for 1 hour, not for 2 hours, but for 3 hours, they couldn't order booze online. So they call me up going, hey, I have this issue. And I'm like, oh my God, this is supposed to be awesome. You're supposed to be relishing in this, that you don't have to go to a government facility, you can go online and buy your stuff, and I'm letting them down. What happens is one of my employees is walking by and actually sees me on this website struggling through the connection timed out. And she says to me, well, I know the guy that runs the server over there. Calls him up, literally 30 seconds later, reboots the server, they're back up. Here's the cool part. How much revenue do you think Total Wine generates per hour at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday? Anybody want to guess how much booze Americans buy at 8 a.m. on a Tuesday online? $100,000 an hour during the AM hours during weekdays. God bless America. Isn't that awesome? They boot it up, they get back up. Now, when you're not thinking about how much sales you're losing, think of that example, because that's a pretty extreme example, but very, very real one. So let's go back to our seafood processing plant. 175 gigs worth of data, 16 employees, just 45 minutes of downtime. How much is the downtime going to cost? I got a calculator. When you plug it into our calculator, they lost $371. If you take one line up, they lose $500 an hour for every hour of downtime. $500 per hour of downtime. The average SMB business will go down 17.82 hours, okay? That's just a given. Everybody can expect 17.82 hours of downtime in the next 12 months. Forget if you have a disaster, if you have some crypto locker, anything like that, okay? You will be down 17.82 hours, which means this company is losing $8,800 per year in just simple human error. Just simple little bits here and there add up. And that's where a continuity solution comes in. What ETS offers through continuity is a fraction of this cost, but eliminates that cost. It eliminates the downtime. And that is what we do exceptionally well. Let me talk a little bit about our family, okay? Our products. We actually have products that range all the way from the desktops, physical servers, virtual servers. We live in Linux environments. We live in the cloud. We have SaaS applications, Office 365, Google Apps, Salesforce. You have the ability to back all of these different solutions up all the different data sets, and we can protect you from end to end. Whether you've got very, very small environments, we do extremely well in. We start at 150 gigs, and then we range all the way up to 60 terabytes. So whether you're a very small business, huge enterprise, we can actually manage all of that. ETS can actually manage all of that, and we have a solution that can help you regardless of where you live. 3 very quick things that I want to talk about that are a little bit different than what we do versus what a lot of our competitors will do, or some of the solutions that you've got out there. Number 1, we actually have unlimited cloud storage, and that's the beautiful thing about the cloud. You can, if you're a data hoarder, you can literally store every single thing that you want within the cloud, and you can keep it for as long as you want. ETS has those options available for unlimited cloud. So even if you want to restore a file from 7 years ago, you have the ability to do that. Where this works the best is malicious deletion. You let an employee go, you need to go back and track an email if you've got any compliance, if you have to store records, even if you just want peace of mind, you have the ability to store all this stuff, and there's unlimited options that are extremely affordable. Number 2, and this is really cool, every backup solution will send you an email going, backup taken, backup taken, backup taken. We do it a little bit differently. When a backup is taken, we actually will boot the image, boot the backup to the boot screen, and then we screenshot it and we send it to ETS. ETS has the ability to send it to you. So you know that not only was the backup taken, but the backup actually works. Because if you've ever had to restore something and you go into your backup solution, and although it said, yes, we took the backup, but it didn't actually work, there's nothing more frustrating than that. What am I paying for if that happens? And that happens a lot. Hence the reason why we go one step further and actually will show you the booted image. And then the third, and probably the most important part, let's assume you have that disaster, okay? We're an American company. We operate 24/7 support based in the United States. We've got 3 offices, support offices here in the US, okay? What we do is we actually will reseed the device, we'll ship the device, we'll give you the device. We do all this at no charge. ETS does all this at no charge. So when you are on your knees and you actually are in that disaster scenario, whether it's a flood, backed up sewage, sprinkler system went off, a fire in your building, whatever the case may be, you're not going to get gouged, you're not going to get charged. It's all part of your monthly service that you pay with ETS. That's a really important part, because that's when a lot of companies will try to take advantage of you, is when you need them the most. We don't do that. So I want to give you guys a calculator. I'm going to give you an email address, or you can send me an email. You can contact me afterwards. And what will happen is we'll give you that calculator. So if you send an email, you get a bounce back email, like an out of office response, and calculate your own downtime. See how much you're losing over the next 12 months. That's the email address right here at the top, downtime@datto.com, or you can reach out to me, rob@datto.com, and I'll point you to the right place. That being said, that's my presentation. Thank you very much.